Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, are you supposed to be here? Are you trying to steal my bold predictions? I'm not sure you're allowed to be here. Are you allowed to be here?
This is actually behind me is a green screen of my home. I am actually on site scouting your bold predictions right now, but please don't tell anybody, especially don't tell the NCAA. Also, are you having hamburgers?
Yes, I am having hamburgers, and that's actually the real problem here is the hamburgers. In case anyone is wondering, did these two idiots have a answer? Not necessarily. In case you missed it on Thursday afternoon, the report from Ross Dellinger and Dan Wetzel at Yahoo, the Michigan NCAA has opened an investigation into Michigan, apparently for potentially doing some in-person scouting and sign stealing of their opponents. Tony, when you schedule a brutal schedule, as Michigan has, just an absolute murderer's row, can you imagine trying to face Bowling Green without resorting to stealing in-person signs, which is, again, only an allegation right now. We don't want to rush to judgment on any of this stuff, but I mean, which of the teams so far on their schedule do you feel that these allegations happened against? Because, I mean, it could be any of, Rutgers, it could be Indiana. I mean, how are you going to stop Indiana's offense without scouting Indiana in person? No one else has done it this year.
I think what needs to happen is a full investigation in terms of flight plans, check to see how many planes have left Detroit and landed in Toledo, and then a car was rented and driven to Bowling Green. I think there's some of that needs to be involved. I wonder how far back this goes. Could it possibly go back to at least 2 years to explain how Michigan has been able to be successful against Ohio State's defense when that's never happened before? I think all options are on the table because this calls into question everything that has come down throughout Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan. Everything is it's cast a pall. Everything is in the cloud now. How many of his wins are going to be taken away? I think all of this is now it's in question because, boy, is it every month we get a new allegation, a new form of cheating, a new suspension, a new coach being fired at Michigan? What is going on there?
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to speculate on that, and I do feel like it's appropriate for us to pump the brakes and wait for some of the additional facts to come out. But it does feel like there is a little bit of a pattern developing. Is that fair? That it feels like there's just kind of constantly been some stuff going on with Michigan football, and a lot of it gets kind of poo-pooed, and it's just hamburgers, and there's lots of smoke that it was not just, in fact, hamburgers, no matter how much people want to paint it as just hamburgers, but we'll, let that one play out as well. But yeah, it is interesting. Michigan wanted to get into big boy college football. And the on-field results have indicated that, and some of the off-field stuff is starting to lean that way too. So it'll be interesting to see how this gets covered internally among the folks that cover Michigan's program, because it does sort of, if this is all borne out to be true, it does sort of counteract what has been the prevailing narrative among that set of folks for many decades.
I wonder what it's just hamburgers explanation will be for this. It'll be like, oh, it's just golf trips, or it's just a baseball card show. Like they'll find like a conference that was at each of those cities. Like, oh, they were just going it was a furry con. It was anything. But again, let's not speculate.
Please, let's not speculate. Can we, is there any way to turn back time 30 seconds and make me not hear at least some of those phrases? No? Okay, well, let's talk about bold predictions instead, because no matter how stupid that show is, it's no possible way it can get any stupider than the last 30 seconds of this show. So, Tony, I think we should talk about who won bold predictions. Not to change the subject, but I think we should talk about who won bold predictions last weekend. I got mine about Penn holding Purdue under 80 yards passing in the first half. They were held to 47 yards in the first half, which is famously less than 80. Ohio State hit their 150 yards rushing and 250 yards passing. They were over 150 yards rushing then went backwards under 150 yards rushing. I texted you that was about as mad as I was ever going to be if I didn't get that one. And then they did. They finished with 152 yards passing, or 152 yards rushing, 354 passing. They were not +3 in turnovers. They did not recover a fumble by a Purdue quarterback. They did outgain Iowa by 6 yards per attempt. Ohio State, 11.1 yards per attempt. Iowa, Tony, 6 for 14 for 37 yards, 2.64 yards per attempt. I do not know if I've ever seen a non-service academy that low. It covered that one easily. 3 of Ohio State defensive linemen each had more than 1 tackle for loss. Tyleik Williams with 2, Jack Sawyer with 1.5, JT Tuimoloau with 1.5. I did not hit my parlay of touchdown scores. I may have cursed the universe there with picking Travion Henderson to get a touchdown run, and then he didn't play because he was hurt. And then I said, okay, we'll swap in Chip Trayanum, and then Chip Trayanum got hurt. So I stopped swapping people in because at that point I did not want to be directly responsible for any young men getting injured. Kyle McCord, the 9-yard pass that you gave me, that one hit as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, Tony. That feels like a lot. How did you do?
Well, Tom, we're out of time for the show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I got 1. And I got 2, including the free point that you gave me where Ohio State scores 4 points in the first. Ohio State scores 4 points in the first 57 minutes. Well, I think that was the one I gave you. You gave me the Kyle McCord completes a pass of 9 yards.
Oh, well.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, the important thing is that number 1, I won, and number 2, I did half of your work for you as usual.
Yeah.
So
now
that's about how this typically goes.
I did get one where one of my 1-pointers was somebody loses rushing yards who hasn't done so yet. That was Dallin Hayden, just as I expected. I said exactly one play of 17 or 34 yards, and then boom, right away there was a 17-yarder, and then not so long after that there was a 34-yarder. And I you don't know how often these things happen, but apparently quite often. So I was surprised I didn't get my 180. The way things were going, I thought that was going to hit, but came close to the Carnell Tate 3-pointer where he surpasses his season totals of 5 catches, 83 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Closer than anything else I came to.
Was this bold horseshoes or bold hand grenades? No? Okay, well, then it sounds like it's 5-2. So,
Tom, go ahead.
All right, Tony, we're going to start with Penn State quarterback Drew Allar. Do you know in his entire college career how many times Drew Allar has turned the ball over, fumble, or interception?
I don't know if he's fumbled. I know he hasn't thrown any interceptions in his 241 attempts.
0 career turnovers, as far as I could tell. So, Tony, guess what he's going to do for the first time in his college career on Saturday? He's going to turn the football over.
This is one of those where, well, that's going to stick. He's been starting for half a season now, and he's played, and it's not a ton of starts. But, yeah, that's his whole thing is he doesn't turn the ball over. So if you're going to go with that, because I have something similar, but it's different if I choose to use it. So yes, we will allow that one. Drew Allar commits a turnover. Done. Tom, my first one, I will go with something that has only happened once this season. So it is possible for it to happen, unlike the Drew Allar stuff. Carnell Tate scores a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I have to allow that just based on the fact that it has only happened once this year, and picking an individual player to score a touchdown is always a little dicey. Plus, this is going to, I think, be a relatively low-scoring game. So, based on all of that, I kind of have to grudgingly allow that one for you.
I feel like it's a 2-pointer, but I'm going to start out with a 1 there, Tom.
Very, very bold of you to only take 1 point for that one. Yes. Wait till you hear about my 3-pointer about Drew Allar doing something he's literally never done in his entire college career. Yeah, that's fine. You take your one and be happy with it. Next one, Tony. Let's see. How about this? Did you see the graphic on Thursday morning from Tom Fornelli from CBS Sports about the number of air yards that Penn State has? Like the graphic, it was a graphic where, the graphic was titled, quote, "Who's chucking it?" And the answer is not Penn State, averaging something like 6.4 air yards, and then averaging more than 2 yards short of the sticks on their passes all year. Would you like to guess where Iowa's air yards are in terms of how many yards ahead of Penn State Iowa is in terms of both air yards per attempt and also average air yard per 2 sticks?
No, I don't want to get involved.
Iowa is 2 yards closer to the sticks and 2 yards further in terms of air yards per attempt, the high-flying Iowa Hawkeyes. So all that, Tony, I mean, this should really be a 17-pointer, but I'm gonna just graciously take this as a 1. Penn State attempts a pass between 17 and 34 yards downfield within their first 5 snaps on offense in the game.
That's a good one. I was worried you were going to try to stretch this out beyond anything like through the first 4 quarters. So 17 to 34 yard air yards pass within the first 5 snaps, you said?
Within the first 5 snaps on offense. I think maybe they take a shot at some point on their first drive or early on their second drive if they go 3 and out. Just feels like that might be something that they look at doing, and that would be very uncharacteristic for them, but worth a shot, especially with Denzel Burke's health, at least somewhat in question right now.
And just so people know, air yards meaning downfield, not to the sideline.
Yes. We're not using like the hypotenuse of the triangle. It is how many yards downfield the pass goes. So 17 to 34 yards.
Okay. All right. My next 1-pointer goes along with that one because I'm going to boldly predict. I feel like this should honestly be a 2, but I'll keep it with a 1 because I'm feeling generous. Ohio State has not yet given up a 40-yard completion. Penn State has only thrown 1 all year, and they haven't thrown 1 since their second pass attempt of the season. So they've gone 179 pass attempts without a 40-yard completion. So I am going to, like I said, it feels like it's a 2, but I'll go ahead and go with 1 because it also feels like they're due, like both sides are due. So I'm not trying to talk you into getting even angrier at this one, but I'm going to say 40-yard completion for Penn State.
Well, and let me just hit this one right now that's sort of related, and we can see if we're kind of in the same ballpark here. Penn State and Ohio State have allowed a total between them of 8 passing plays of 30-plus yards in 12 games. That works out to 0.67 passing plays of 30-plus yards allowed in 12 games, or 0.67 per game. So I'm saying between the two, there are at least 3 plays of that long for 1 point.
Yeah, we can do that. That's a pretty good number. So at least 3 plays.
At least 3 plays of 30-plus yards passing.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, 3 passes of 30 yards. And can, Tom, once a receiver catches one of those 3 passes, he is now no longer eligible to catch another pass. Is that what you're saying?
Nah, this very specifically not what I am saying. That was
okay.
I would never, Tony. I mean, I respect the listeners way too much to say something like that.
That's fine. We don't need to strike the receivers. Are you saying that once one of the quarterbacks throws one of those passes, they are stricken? Is that what we're saying?
I don't think that's what I'm saying either. Let me just go ahead and check the transcript, and no, that is not what I'm saying. But thank you for asking. Thank you for showing interest in my bold prediction.
I wouldn't call it interest, but all right, we'll go ahead and allow that. At least 3 passes of 30 yards or more combined from the 2 teams. As long as, Tom, it is not just one person. That's cheating.
In what way is that cheating? Specifically, show your work.
Because it's happening in person, Tom, and we know anything that happens in person is cheating.
But if I'm eating a hamburger when it happens, then it's not cheating.
See, now the hamburger has become a 17 or 34 in the show, and now we have to allow this. All right. At least 3 pass plays of 30 yards or more. Done. Tom, do you know what Penn State has done on 29 of their last 30 trips to the red zone?
I'm going to guess that they have scored points on 29 of their last 30 point possessions.
Yes,
of the red zone?
They've only failed twice this season. I am saying they will fail at least once in this game to score at all.
Okay, so 1 empty trip to the red zone for Penn State. Based on the stats there, I think I have to agree with that. I'm going to transition right now to another related one. I think we are very much on the same page with a lot of this. This is my 2-pointer. So this for 2 points for me is both teams convert a 4th down attempt and also do not convert a 4th down attempt. So each team is at least 1 for 2. Penn State, what reminded me of that was Penn State is 11 for 12 on fourth downs this year. So both teams have to attempt multiple fourth downs, convert at least one each, and not convert at least one each for 2 points.
I wish I had more energy to go and look to see how often this has happened, but it feels there's a lot going on with this one. And generally when there's a lot going on with this one, I'll be distracted and just accept it because
Yeah, this is one of these multi-leg parlays where it's like each individual thing is like, yeah, I could see that happening for sure. And it's like, well, now you need 4 discrete events to happen, and there's only going to be, I think you're going to see some fourth down attempts, and I think that might be related to Penn State coming up empty in the red zone at some point. But if that one happens, then there's still 3 more things that also need to happen. And I don't know how many drives you're expecting this game, but I think there are not going to be that many opportunities to come up empty on a fourth down conversion, because I'm not expecting a lot of drives in this game.
Well, and I'll tell you, each of these two teams are attempting essentially 2 per game, 2 fourth down attempts per game. And as you said, Penn State is 11 of 12. Ohio State is they're 8 of 13. So you could get your attempts, but they have to hit exactly straight, not box, as we've said before. And so I'm going to allow, and if this is something that is typical, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, I don't think it's been typical because Penn State's only missed on 1, so they can. I did not go back to look at which game that they did that in.
I'm going to look at the game logs for the Ohio State fourth down attempts. So they did not attempt any at Purdue, but they've done 2 or 3 in every other games. Defensively, in terms of fourth down attempts, they have faced 16 in 6 games. So they've faced at least 1 in every game, and there's been 1 missed. They've stopped somebody once in every game, but it's not just stopping. I'm going to allow it. I'm just letting the people know it's probably a 1-pointer, but we're already this deep into the show, so we'll go ahead and allow a 2-pointer there, and then I will just ask for at some point for some leeway. Not this week because all of mine are bold enough, but maybe down the road, perhaps before we head for a bowl game, just a little leeway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps. I'm sure this won't ever get mentioned again. All right. So do you want to do your 2-pointer? You want me to do another 1-pointer here? What do we want to do?
I can do my 2-pointer.
Okay.
Penn State has allowed in Big Ten play this year 462 yards passing total. I am saying Kyle McCord will throw for 100 under that, 362. I'm not going for 462. 362 would be a career high for McCord against the best defense he's faced this year, a number that is not close to anything that Penn State has given up this year. And I could look to see exactly when the last time they even gave up 362 yards passing in a game, but I don't believe I need to.
I would be interested to know that fact.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Because because we talked earlier in the week about I'm not fighting you on this. I would just be interested to know that fact, because this year's Penn State schedule has not been rich with tremendous offensive firepower, shall we say. I think we went through the stats at some point earlier in the week, and exactly one of the teams that they've played was in the top 100 in terms of points scored per game, and one of them was in terms of, I think, yards per play. So no matter how you want to slice it, advanced metrics or traditional metrics, their opponents have not been very good. So when is the last time Penn State gave up this many yards passing?
So the most they've given up this year is 276 to noted passing attack Illinois. But they gave up 354 to Ohio State last year to C.J. Stroud. Do you remember him? Do you remember that passing attack that Ohio State had back when they had Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka on the same team? The opener against Purdue last year, 365 yards passing allowed to NFL quarterback Aiden O'Connell. So that was the last time. It's been some time since then. And again, they barely passed. And it took 59 attempts. I don't think we're going to see Ohio State throw the ball 59 times. They honestly may be fortunate to get 59 total plays in this game, which is another factor.
Yes, which is definitely another factor. So yeah, I'm going to allow that. There's a lot of different moving parts there in terms of which receivers are going to play and what's the weather like and what's the game state, and is it, Ohio State trying to manage, so Ohio State trying to come back. I mean, the best thing that could happen in terms of this happening would be Ohio State being down by 2 scores in the first half and kind of having to abandon the run. That would be the most likely scenario. So I'm sure I know which way the listeners are rooting this week, as usual. Tony, I'm going to bring back one of my favorites. Tony, Davison Igbinosun with 2 discrete impact plays and also an accepted penalty against.
This is becoming a 1734 cheeseburger. But also at some point when does it become a free square? Has he done it yet? Or does it just feel like it?
I don't think anyone has actually hit on this one yet. Like, I'm sure it has happened, but I don't think this is at least the third time I think someone has picked something along these lines. I don't think anyone has hit on it yet, which is, it's significant.
No, it is. I'm just looking. He's had 1 half tackle for loss. That was a couple weeks ago. And all right, no, we're going to allow this. This is one I think everybody should root for, just because, maybe not the penalty if you don't want to get into that, but this is kind of like a pet thing now for the show. So we'll go with that one. Tom, here's something, and I don't know if this is bold, and we can talk about this because it's happened. It's happened, I think, 3 straight weeks.
My favorite part of these shows is, Tom, I don't know if this is bold. Let me Ron Howard narrator voice that for you. If you're asking, no.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, it depends on what your definition of is bold is, if you will. So this is something that Cade Stover has done this 4 straight weeks of at least 50 yards receiving. And he's never done it more than like 2, I think, last year. So I don't know, is it bold to say he could do it for a 5th week in a row? Or is it not bold because he's done it 4 weeks in a row? So that's the thing. I'm thinking like 50 yards receiving and a touchdown. But he's done that the last 2 weeks.
So my 5th bold prediction for 1 point is Cade Stover 100 yards receiving, which would be a career high. So
okay,
I think I have overbid you. Now, I do not have a 3-point. Oh no, I do have a 3-pointer. So yes, okay. I think that's unless you would like to go over 100 yards or tell me 90 yards and a touchdown or something, I think that's probably one I'm going to get.
Yeah, no, I'm going to allow that one. You can have that one because I had a second one. Like I was trying to figure out, knowing we'd have a conversation, is it the 5 straight that is bold, or because you say that.
If you had predicted him to do that 5 weeks ago, that would have been incredibly bold. He's already done 4 of them, so you're picking him to do it once. That's just to be clear on how probability works. That's not at all bold.
I just wanted your thoughts on it to see where you were, but clearly you disagree. So, and you're not even disagreeing, because I wasn't even sure, in terms of how you would feel about it. But that's why it was an auxiliary prediction. I can pass it off, and now you can have it. Here's one for you, Tom. Each of the 2 starting quarterbacks in this game fumbles at least once.
Well, I guess Drew Allar hasn't lost a fumble in his career. I don't know if he has fumbled, but this is 2 starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
So Kyle McCord and Drew Allar both fumble the ball.
Right.
They don't have to lose it. Can we have? Trying to decide if one of them needs to lose it.
Because then it becomes, if you try to change it, then somebody has to lose it. So what do you feel?
Yeah.
What do you feel like?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's okay. Each of the starting quarterbacks. So call your shot on this. Kyle McCord and Drew Allar both lose a fumble in this game, or both fumble the ball in this game.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure we're on our P's and Q's, as Tim May has said this week.
Yes.
I was going to say, that sounded pretty non-committal there. I'm going to need more than a...
Yeah. Each of Kyle McCord and Drew Allar fumble, assuming that whoever starts for each team fumbles at least once. So yes.
Okay. All right. And then, so now we have all 5 of our 1s. We have our 2s.
I still have one more. I have one more one.
Okay. Somehow I have come. Oh, because I just the Cade Stover won. So I think that's okay. Go ahead.
There will be at least 34 more punting yards in this game than rushing yards. Now, both teams are averaging about 130 yards punting. That's right where Ohio State is in terms of rushing as well. Penn State's averaging 200 yards rushing. So that right now they're averaging like 70 more yards punting than rushing, or rushing than punting combined. So I'm saying there'll be at least 34 more yards punting than rushing in this game.
All right. I am frantically trying to pull up the Ohio State Notre Dame box score because I think we're probably looking at a fairly similar game. And it feels like this is exceedingly likely to hit, which is a problem for what is purportedly a bold prediction.
Last year, Ohio State against Penn State had 156 yards punting. And they had 900 yards rushing. 98 yards rushing.
So this is a thing that happened by a wide margin last year. 135 and
Penn State had 134 yards punting last year against Ohio State, and they rushed for 111. Having looked at that, Tom, do you want me to change my answer at all?
No, and here's what I'm pulling up the Notre Dame box score, and Ohio State rushed for more yards than they punted for, 126 to 115. Notre Dame rushed for more than they punted for, 176 to 92. So you're saying that they will punt for more than they rush for? Which one is higher, punting or rushing?
Total, I believe punting has won out in terms of the total. 34 more yards punting than rushing. Again, 34.
35, yeah, and I will allow that. I went back and I looked at the numbers from the Notre Dame game, and I think we can do this. I think I will allow that, especially because of the 34. I just wanted to kind of sanity check it against the box score, and that's fine. I am not, Tony. I'm not unreasonable on this. I just when you throw out, well, if Mercury's in retrograde, the Buckeyes are going to run the ball at the, between 17 and 34 degrees latitude. Like, I need to look at this because otherwise I don't want you trying to get away with stuff. I respect the listeners way too much for that.
You brought Iowa's retrograde into the show last week, so don't give me anything about.
Well, I had their numbers. I had I provided the facts on the ground in terms of how much they do. And when you talk about the Iowa passing game, it is a lot on the ground. So my last one, Tony, we got to do 3-pointers. Here we go.
Yep.
My 3-pointer, we've talked before about the middle 8. So the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. So the middle 8 minutes of the game, 3 scores. Not, touchdown and PAT do not count as 2 separate scores. 3 scores. So a touchdown, a field goal, a safety in the middle 8 between the two teams.
I don't really feel like that's a 3-pointer. I feel that's more 1 or 2, though. I know this is going to be a low-scoring game, but you try to do your most scoring at the end of the half while you're just trying to make something happen. And but you also have to score that. I don't like this as a 3-pointer, but also I know points aren't going to be easy in this game. I will say, Tom, how about field goal can only be used once?
I was going to say, how about this? At least one must be a field goal. At least one must be a touchdown. How about that?
Yeah, I'll go along with that. I know I'm speaking for the people here when I say this doesn't feel like a 3, but you've already thrown your 2 in there, and 4 scores in the middle 8 feels more like a 4. So this is an unhappy medium, if you will.
If you want to count the PAT or 2-point conversion, I will give you 4 scores in the middle 8. That's fine. We can do that. If that makes you feel better.
No, we're going to go ahead and do this. That way I can be a martyr after the fact, which is my favorite thing. My 3-pointer, and again, respectfully, the leeway that I gave you, Tom. A defensive touchdown return from somebody who's never scored. So it can't just be a fumbling recovery in the end zone, interception in the end zone. We see those all the time. But it has to be a return from somebody who's never scored.
How many players on the Ohio State defense have scored and is this from both teams?
No. This is just Ohio State.
Just from Ohio State. So a player on Ohio State's defense who has never scored scores a touchdown on a return of at least more than 0 yards. Yes.
Yeah. Now I can run down some names of defensive players who've scored for you if you want to start eliminating guys.
Sure. Go ahead and run through those.
Josh Proctor, Jermaine Matthews, Tyleik Williams, Steel Chambers, JT Tuimoloau, Tommy Eichenberg. I feel like this is becoming a 4-pointer by the moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you had me at
Denzel Burke.
Yeah, you had me at a couple names ago, I think. Yeah, that's fine. That's a good one. Yeah, I feel like that's fair. I was going to put some kind of a return number on there, but 17 felt like too long. So, I that's fine. I think that's a good one.
All right. And your gift?
Tony, an Ohio State running back will have a run of over 5 yards.
Within the first 4 quarters?
You know what? I will graciously give you overtime as well. Okay. Although if this game goes to overtime with Ohio State not having a rush of over 5 yards, I kind of don't want to be there for the game. So,
first team to score wins. All right, then I will accept that. I will give you one here. My gift to you: at least one tackle for 2 different Ohio State linebackers.
At least one tackle for 2 different Ohio State linebackers. Okay, but I get to count Sonny Styles as a linebacker if it comes down to it.
Okay, but only if the tackle happens on defense.
That's fair. I will not count a Sonny Styles tackle on special teams or if he starts playing offense.
See, Tom, we're getting along just fine right now, and I appreciate the way we've come together and we've allowed things to become friendlier and less hostile, less hateful, less maniacal on your part. And you've really grown as my humility has also stands out quite a bit, I think, as well. But that's probably the best part of the show as I've been told. So anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing who has the couch of shame on a long Tony weekend trip to Wisconsin. 2-nighter, Tony. 2-nighter. And then guess what? We got another 2-nighter coming up the week after that. Going to Rutgers. It is going to be a couple high stakes weeks on the cot of shame front.
Yeah, but the good news is regardless of the cot of shame, when we go to New Jersey, everybody hits the mattresses. So we take it to the mattresses. We're all good there. But that will do it for this Bold Predictions episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. As always, please check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. If you're not yet a member, become a member. Check it out for a month. It's a great way to support us and what we do. And there's plenty of stuff behind the paywall, X's and O's, recruiting, team stuff. Just, we're there on the message board as well. So you can reach out to us at all times pretty much there as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.